Again, sorry about that. My name's Chris Burnett. I'm the Director of Supplier Diversity for Capital Programs, Strategy, and Innovation, a department within overall capital programs. As with all of our meetings and our events at the MBTA, safety is our top priority. So we're going to open today's training session with a safety moment. Um, what is personal protective equipment, or PPE? It is equipment worn to minimize exposure to hazards that cause serious workplace injuries and illnesses. These injuries and illnesses may result from contact with chemical, radiological, physical, electrical, mechanical, or other workplace hazards. Personal protective equipment may include items such as gloves, safety glasses and shoes, earplugs or muffs, hard hats, respirators or coveralls, vests, and full body suits. What can be done to ensure proper use of personal protective equipment? All personal protective equipment should be safely designed and constructed and should be maintained in a clean and reliable fashion. It should fit comfortably, encouraging worker use. If the personal protective equipment does not fit properly, it can make the difference between being safely covered or dangerously exposed. When engineering, work practice, and administrative controls are not feasible or do not provide sufficient protection, employers must provide personal protective equipment to their workers and ensure its proper use. Employers are also required to train each worker to use PPE, to know when it is necessary, what kind is necessary, how to properly put it on, adjust, wear, and take it off, the limitations of the equipment, proper care, maintenance, useful life, and disposal of the equipment. If PPE is to be used, a PPE program should be implemented. This program should address the hazards present, the selection, maintenance, and use of PPE, the training of employees, and monitoring of the program to ensure its ongoing effectiveness. You can always go and find out more information through OSHA about PPE and the places that you're working, as well as the MBTA and what our requirements are for PPE. I would like to take a moment to thank our MBTA partners, Katie Cho, who launched the Small Business Program for Capital a year ago, Maureen McDonough, the Chief of Capital Support, Sean McDonald, who serves as the MBTA's Director of Construction Procurement, and to Eric Leguloff, Deputy Chief of Small Projects. We would also like to thank ODCR, the Office of Civil Rights and Diversity, whom we often work with and co-plan events and assist in any way that we possibly can. We work hand in hand with ODCR to provide them the support they need to ensure compliance. And finally, we would be remiss if we didn't recognize Mason Tawfiq, the Chief of Capital Program Strategy and Innovation, who recognized early on that the lack of bonding for small and emerging businesses was a major impediment to getting our SBE into the next gear. So thank you to all of our fellow coworkers at the MBTA for all that you've done, and as we continue to move forward with the Small Business Enterprises Program. All right, Herman, I am going to turn it over to you to
Thank you, Chris.
do your magic.
Thank you. Thank you all. Welcome. And I'm Herman Ross. I'm the COO of National Insurance Consultants. We are working as a subcontractor to Armon Resources Group, Inc., ARG, to provide technical assistance to small business enterprises on behalf of Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, MBTA. We will get through this hopefully in a timely manner for people to ask questions. We would ask that you put your questions into the chat as you have them, and we will have 3 stopping points through this presentation to answer those questions. Hopefully, we will get to all of the questions, but if we don't, we will be recording. We are recording this, and we will be responding to each and everyone's question, regardless of when it comes in. Next slide, please. So My background is in bonding. I started with Hartford Insurance, and one of the first things I learned was why bonding is required for federal, state, and local contracts. One of the main reasons, if not the main reason for bonding, is people go, well, who pays for bonding? Well, we all do as the public. We pay for bonding on every project that there is relative federal, state, and local cities, municipalities, because we're taxpayers. And the law, the Miller Act and the Little Miller Act, require public works contracts of more than 100,000 to be bonded. And that is in specific states. There are other requirements per state for state contracts, but the majority of what we're speaking about for the Miller Act and the Little Miller Act would really apply to the federal regulations. Our background as national insurance consultants has been to provide capacity and bonding programs with our partners throughout the country since 1994. In next year, September, we will celebrate over 30 years in the industry, and I go back over 42 years as an underwriter. Next slide, please. First thing I want to make sure everybody's aware of. Bonding is not insurance. Most of you that are business owners have insurance. You purchase insurance, and that's really to make sure that you're protected from a claim. Bonding is three-party. So the owner, the MBTA in this particular case, puts out an RFP for a construction project. First party, of course, would be the primes that bid on that. And the majority of the people that we address when it comes to surety, and that's what bonding is the company and each owner, the shareholders of that company. You own 20% or more, you really are indemnifying the surety company. And that's what it means by a zero loss ratio. You default on a job, you are paying whatever the surety has to pay out for that default. So that's why it's called a three-party contract. I always want to make sure that there are people that understand right up front why there's such a clause called indemnification. And it goes back to the first reason as to why there are bonding in America. And it's because we as taxpayers pay for those contracts for that work, ultimately making sure that our schools are built properly, our roads are built properly, our federal and state buildings and county buildings are built properly, and that there are no defaults on those particular projects. That's why bonding is really not insurance. You are guaranteeing that you can bid, perform, and pay your subs. And in our workshops that the MBTA, through our contract with Armand Resource and their contract with MBTA, we've created this capacity program to go forward to make sure that you as business owners, and I'm going to get to the point that you're not a contractor, you're a business owner, that you have an opportunity to get a bond and then increase that bond and then increase what you make and what you do in the community. Next slide, please. Two important points. Surety companies are looking for well-run and well-performing companies. And I want to make sure that you understand that's not to say that if you're not currently a well-run and well-performing company, the surety becomes your partner in helping you grow your firm. Too many times I hear people, I don't want to answer those questions. I don't want to do what they're asking me to do. Well, that's your business partner. And their job is to make sure that you bid on time, pay your subs, and you perform. So when you're talking about surety and you're talking about your firm, the surety company, and your broker, we all become partners in growing your firm. The surety company is not asking you to do anything that a savvy business person would not already be doing. Managing his or her company, the majority of us are for-profit companies. And at the end of the day, the surety company wants you to make a profit. And then we're going to get into the most important thing in some of the slides coming up that the surety are looking for. And again, I want to make sure that everybody is aware. If at any point in time you have any questions, please place them in the chat and we're going to have some stopping points. If there are some multiple questions that are the same, we're going to answer those questions at that point in time. Next slide, please. So the top 10 do's. Number one, know what the sureties are looking for. And that's the 5 C's. The 5 C's are how you get underwritten and how they work with you to make sure that your character, your capacity, your capital, continuity, and the contract. And I always refer to the contract as the one that's the most important to a business owner. Don't sign it if you don't know what you're signing. They look at your experience. What have you done? And that's not to say, and I used to say a few years ago, things have kind of changed in the industry that if you hadn't been in business for 2 or 3 years, that don't come talk to us about surety. That's not true any longer. If you're a new venture, the surety company really will talk to you nowadays. And why? Because of we have so many projects out there that you may have experience from working for someone else that now gives you the opportunity to own my own, that you now get to have your own business or you've created your own business. And they even talk to startups as well as businesses that have been in business only 2 years. Management capability. Do you have the ability to bid and acquire work? Who is doing your bidding? Who's doing your estimating? Your accounting process. Do you have the right people? You're not a CPA, you're not a bookkeeper, but you should be able to hire them. People go, oh, that costs money. Well, when you're a small firm and you get a bond line, the surety does that for you. A lot of people don't realize that once they authorize you to have a per job and an aggregate limit of doing multiple jobs, it is the surety's responsibility to make sure you have the right accounting processes and the right project management. Working capital, bank line of credit, meaning you have staying power. Get a bank line of credit and increase it whenever possible. Your net worth, meaning your lost paying power. And then, of course, if you are an entrepreneur in construction, the most important thing to know about having capacity is your credit score. It is very important that if my underwriter, whether it be Capital Indemnity, Surety, Zurich, any of the surety companies we do business with, they want to make sure that you know your own credit score. If you are married, your spouse's credit score and your credit score count towards your capital and capacity. I want to say that again. If you are married, you and your spouse's credit scores make a difference. We make sure, we as your broker and your surety company, the type of work you're bidding on. If you're doing steel work, you shouldn't be bidding on anything other than steel work. The size of the project, stay within your bid parameters. And then your geographic range. A lot of the major primes nowadays are actually bidding around the country. But if you've been doing work in the Boston area or in the Massachusetts Commonwealth for all these years and you decide to go into other locales, it would be great for you to speak to your underwriter and your agent prior to bidding on those jobs anywhere else. Next slide, please. Number 2, top 10 do's. Research your options. Teaming and joint venturing. Under teaming, some sureties will provide bonding capacity for a small business if they team with a larger and financially stronger contractor. Joint venture. Many sureties will only provide bonding support if they bond both partners. The joint venture agreement should spell out the work to be performed by each party. And I talked about that contract. So the surety must review and you sign a document, an indemnification agreement. And in that indemnification agreement, you say you will not enter into a contract with anyone without allowing your surety to review that contract. Remember, the prime nor the authority or the owner writes that contract for your benefit. They write it for theirs. Thus, why the surety wants to make sure that it is reviewed by them. Nowadays, and in other contracts in the past, there are what's called escrow accounts, fund control could be imposed. And remember, I talked about those firms that are just starting out. This is where the surety works with you if you're a new entity, that they allow you to get a per job line and they make sure that there are fund controls imposed on you so that you're not spending your money, their money too, and that there are escrow accounts put in place. And those are ways that you can get around a low credit score or get around that you haven't had the major experience of actually having a bond. Indemnity disclosure for teaming agreement. You're not going to be able to get a bond if you're doing teaming agreements and the surety doesn't see your teaming agreement and your own indemnification clauses within your teaming agreement. Confirm acceptance of JV by procurement agency. Most contracts from the prime, or from the owner, I should say, require that any joint ventures be approved. The same thing with surety. They want to make sure that you haven't signed something that you pretty much have signed yourself away. And that those controls that are put in place by the surety are being adhered to. SBA will consider joint ventures if each joint venture partner does not exceed their respective NAICS size standards. Please go to SBA website for updated size standards, ecfr.gov, and the Code of Federal Regulations. And then there are collateral programs. You'll find a lot of people nowadays that are putting capacity programs together. They actually go to the authority to see if they can put a $50,000, $500,000, $100,000 collateral up relative to doing a bond program. And we will get into that in just a minute in depth of what those collateral programs are. Next slide, please. Number 3, pre-qualify your surety brokers. Please make sure that your broker is knowledgeable about the industry and the surety process. You're not going to a State Farm agent. You're not going to a farmer's agent. You're not going to an Allstate agent to get surety bonds. The surety bond broker maintains a business relationship with several surety companies. So in other words, we're going to know who to place you with. If you're looking at 100,000 to 250,000, CNA is prime for that. If you're looking at 250,000 to 500,000, then Capital Indemnity. And then Zurich and Hartford and major carriers like that go over and above that. Knowledge of accounting and finance. I could tell you a quick story about accounting and finance. If you came from another industry and you had a CPA, and you decided that you wanted to open up a construction firm, the question is going to be, has your CPA ever worked with construction firms before? Are they aware of how we in the surety industry use accounting practices and finance? The ability to pre-underwrite your bond package to prevent denials or multiple inquiries on your credit report. This is why you have brokers that are familiar with the process. so that your credit doesn't get checked. And we all know about, well, I'm going to go get a new car. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you have credit hits, and those credit hits reduce your credit score. Are your agents and your surety companies licensed in the region with appropriate state and local regulations? And then are they familiar with the region and the marketplace that you're in? And those are really important things about pre-qualifying your surety brokers. Next slide, please. Number 4, tell your own story. So as a surety broker, our job is to put together the surety submission. They include the history of your company, your business strategy and your plan, the key employees and roles, and include the resumes. Please don't go out and hire your brother-in-law who was at culinary school to do your bidding and estimating. That's not going to work. Continuity plan. And we're going to get into that in depth here in just a few, but real simple. What's to continue the company if something happens to you as the owner? Have you put a continuity plan in place? Because remember something, the surety's job is to give you a line per job and hopefully an aggregate that you can do multiple jobs. But at the end of the day, it's the close out of that job so you can go get another. So is there a continuity plan in place, short-term disability, long-term disability, life insurance policies for the key people that are running or owning that firm to make sure that if you're in the middle of a 6 month job and something happens to you, you still have 50% of the work to do? How do we put a continuity plan to make sure that that job can be completed? Your relationships with subcontractors, generals, if a sub, how in the world do you come to place and have a relationship and get jobs if you haven't gone out and networked, if you haven't worked with these firms in the past? The surety company wants to know, and they allow you, and they don't just allow you, they ask you to tell your story about your relationships with primes as well as subcontractors. A review of your work in progress. One of the most important things is really how much work do you currently have on hand? Have you done too much? Are you doing not enough? The surety company and your broker will really work with you hard to make sure that you have consistent work, that you have consistency in your jobs, that you are on time, under budget. A lot of people in my 40 years in the industry, I am so mad at that surety company for asking me all these questions. And my blunt response to them is, you better be glad they're asking you questions versus saying no. If they're asking you questions, they're trying to find a way to work with you. A lot of people think surety is hard. It's not. It's not hard at all. It can take you 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to get a bond. If you're in this industry, all you have to really do is do the assessments. We're going to discuss that. Work through how we're going to assist you getting bond. We have people here that have on this call that are part of our team that can help you with capacity, construction loans, all of those things. So one of the main things that you need to know is we're a team. Capital expenditure, history, and plan. And then again, the capabilities in estimating and bidding. One of the most important people that you have on your staff. Who's doing the bidding and estimating? We call it the 80-20 rule, 80-20 rule. If your bidder stays within 80% each time, you've got a good bidder and estimator. If you have a bidder estimator and sometimes it's 70%, sometimes 70%, that's a rude awakening to your net profit. Who's your agent? And I wrote this in here, your ride or die partner, because we're in the car together. We start out in that Volkswagen, you're driving, I'm in the front seat, your bookkeeper's in the back seat, and then our surety underwriter is on the other side. And we're hoping at some point in time to go from that Volkswagen to that 500 SEL. Next slide, please. Tell your own story, continued here. Banking relationships. Again, your credit report, cash management, recap of financial reports, 3 years CPA prepared financial statements. Now, don't let that scare you because there's a level that you are bidding at that therefore requires you to have CPA prepared. Most of us in this industry start out small and grow. So they don't require CPA prepared financial statements for small businesses. And that's going to come up here in another slide or so. So of course, your methods of financial reporting, percentage of completion, measure progress of job based on relationships between cost to date to total cost. What's that mean? Realistically, if you're in this industry, you already know that. Okay. If you don't, we're going to discuss that when we do our assessments and we talk to you specifically about your own business. Accrual is accepted for inactive accounts contractors with no open jobs at year end. Contractors who do not engage in fixed price contracts. Example is time and material and unit price contracts. And number 3, cash is never accepted when you're working with a surety. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one there, Sean. Can you go back 1 second, please? I want to talk about your personal financial statements. People, oh, why you worry about my personal? We're more worried about your personal financial statements than we are about your corporate financial statements. We're worried about both. But as a business owner in the construction industry, we're looking for people that know how to maintain a good bank line. And if they don't have a good bank line, they maintain their credit score. They're making sure that every other week they're checking if the credit score went up or down. And if it goes down, they're acknowledging to the surety or to their agent what they did and how come it went. Because that's one of the most important things when it comes to making sure you have what? Cash on hand, lines of credit, the ability to borrow. Next slide, please. Here's that level I was discussing earlier about levels of financial reporting. And in general, compiled projects up to 500,000. You don't need a CPA when you have those. Why? Because realistically, all of your reports on a monthly basis are going through your producer, your agent, to the surety company, and you're going to talk to the agent and surety company relative to hiccups or anything that's going on. Again, I want to emphasize something. Do not be afraid to talk to underwriters. The underwriter is the one, and by the way, most underwriters nowadays, their bonuses are predicated upon the people that they get per job and aggregate limits. They're hungry just like we are in the industry to go out and get jobs. And their bonuses, their job reviews are predicated upon writing. Right now is our time. As small businesses, as SBEs, it's our time because they need us just as much as we need them. So when we're talking about review of projects, anything 500,000 and greater, a CPA will have to review. And then audited. Most projects between 500 and $1 million, if you have a aggregate limit excess of $1 million. What do I mean by that? The surety has given you authority to bid at $500,000 per job, but they're giving you an aggregate of 1 million or 1.5 million, meaning you can have 2 jobs or 3 jobs going at the same time. When you have those kinds of numbers, yeah, you're going to have a review for any projects $500,000 and or greater. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you have projects up to $1 million, the surety company, I don't care who the surety company is going to require that all your documents, financials be audited. There are a couple of exceptions to this. So the fastest we've ever gotten anyone bonded was in 4 hours. The longest we've gotten anyone bonded was 18 months. This is not National Insurance Consultants telling you this. This is the surety company who, after you've met with that underwriter, puts a plan together with you to get you bonded. We're just the middle person and the go-between to take you to the right surety underwriter. Let's use the MBTA as a great example of how they put this SBE program together. Along with ARG, they put this capacity bonding program together for you. Why? So that we can grow your firms. What happens when we grow your firms? You hire more people. What do those people do? They pay taxes. And if they pay taxes, what does that do? It leaves a footprint in that community by making sure that whatever you built is built properly, can withstand whatever time is necessary, and then you can retain earnings and go bid on other jobs. The Fast Track program utilizes corporate and personal credit scores to consider bonds up to 250,000. Those are the ones we're looking for right now in this, and not saying less than that or more than that, but those are the ones that we feel through what we've heard from the ARG and from the MBTA. There are a lot of you out there that we believe we can get you in the Fast Track program. Next slide, please. Manage your business. So many times, I did a workshop for DFW Airport, and there were some major players in there, and he told me I could say this, and Emmett Smith was one of our clients. How many of you guys are contractors? He raised his hand. I said, oh, great. You should be in here, because none of you are contractors. You're an entrepreneur. You just happen to be in the construction industry. And that's what surety companies are looking for. Can you plan, organize, direct, and control? Do you have monthly reviews of operational results? We're going to get into the levels of that when we do, if you allow us to do a specific assessment of your firm. Do I have the right people, process, environment? What is working and what is not working? Do you double check the internal controls? Are they working? Number 7, broadcast your successes. Let the surety know what you are doing well. And how are you going to do that? You're going to communicate with the surety underwriter directly. This is not like you just call up and you get somebody, or you send an email and the next thing you know, you're working with someone online. When you have surety, you have a relationship. That relationship is not just with your agent, that's with your surety underwriter. And again, I continue to go back to the fact that their bonuses and what they're due and how they get raises and how they are graded as an underwriter is realistically by increasing the number of businesses that they have within their portfolio of soliciting and getting surety for. Continuity plan. I have been doing this for long. I sleep about continuity plans. Continuity plan is a documented plan detailing the continuation of an entity in the event of a change of ownership for whatever reasons. Why? The surety looks for contingency plan to minimize the initial impact of loss, i.e. death or disability, of owners and key employees. Three types of plans together forms a solid continuity, providing operational continuity in the event of an unexpected event. Short-term loss, you're out 6 to 8 weeks. Who's going to be in place to take your place? Long-term loss, you didn't have any long-term care coverage or long-term disability. Providing, number 2, providing financial continuity that may benefit a spouse and or children of key individuals in the event of death or disability. I'm going to stop right there. When you're married, your spouse is running a company, and the other spouse is out somewhere working. Is there a plan in place that if something happens to either one of you, because you're signing that indemnity agreement, that there is some mechanism to fund or to continue at the same level you were financially? That's what that means. Short-term disability, long-term disability, life insurance. This is indicating to a surety company a commitment to business viability and performance. Next slide, please. These we're going to breeze through because most of you that are in the industry already know, and I want to get to the first round of questions. The importance of having the right insurance in place. These are simply summaries of insurance that we have discovered through projects that we've done throughout the country. Most of them are 1 million with a 2 million aggregate. And then, of course, the additional insurance. Most of you in the industry are aware of blanket additional insured endorsements, directors and officers coverage, and then, of course, automobile liability coverage include on all owned and hired and non-owned autos as well. Next slide, please. The most important thing is to start early. You need to start the process well in advance on bidding on jobs. And again, I'm going to show you a slide here about assessments. This will help your company to determine the dollar value of work that the surety will write bonds for and position your company to know the jobs that you can bid on. The big key here is starting before you start going to go bid, and then stay in your lane. One of our partners, Derek Brown, is on the line with us. One of the main things that he and I've discovered is we have so many people come to us and say, I want to bid on this job. Okay, that's $1 million job. Your bonding line is 250,000. Your credit line is 250,000. That's $500,000. You're 60% through a job. You can't bid on jobs like that. Now, can we grow you to bid on jobs like that? Yes. We're partners. You, our agency, or any agency you're with that does surety, and the surety company's responsibility at the end of the day is to grow your firm. So all of us win, and including the community you're in wins. Because of course, the more you have, the more you bid, the more people you can hire, and the more you can pay. I think it's now time for a stopping point for questions. Sean, if you go to the next and give me, if you have any of those, just read them out, any multiple ones, read them out, and I'll try to answer them.
Yeah, sure. First question is from Nancy Johnson. She would like to know what type of contracts, aside from those that are $100,000 value, need bonding. She's a consultant on infrastructure management, on how to do things. Does that require bonding?
Okay, historically, anyone that's brick and mortar would require the surety, but again, it goes back to who's writing that RFP. And what you just described your firm in, historically, we haven't seen that surety bonds are needed, but they do make sure that you have the right professional liability and errors and omissions for those types of entities. But I don't think too many of them that the authority themselves are requiring you to have a surety, because it's more brick and mortar and realistically you doing or building or constructing something versus having a professional services contract. I hope that answered your question for you. John, next question.
I believe the next question was already answered, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask anyway.
Okay.
Is it a personal credit score or business credit score, or both?
Personal is first. Personal is first always. Okay. They're looking at the specifics of you taking your personal and making sure that you can take care of your personal, because if you have a good credit score personally, you can go out into business and then get more money. And that's the big key is it starts in your household. It starts with you personally. And if you are a couple, they want to know both, because if something happens to one, then that could affect the income of your household. So yes, it is both. And it does really, you as that business owner, making sure that your personal credit score stays up. And when I say up, 650 and above, some places 700, it depends on the level that you're looking. But don't let that bother you or hinder you if you're not there yet. because after we do our assessments with you, we turn no one away. No one. We're going to talk to you and we're going to give you a category. And we're going to talk about those categories when we continue on. Next question.
All right, next question is from Melissa Mack. She asks, when you are a growing company and start to bid on projects that require the 3-year audited financials, but have only just reached that level, what do you advise the company does if they don't have those audited financials?
Well, prior to you getting to that position, if you are getting bonding, your surety underwriter as well as your agent should have already informed you that that's going to come and prepared you that that's going to come. And that's why it's very important to have a surety agent that has done bonding before and has taken you to the right underwriter. So those things shouldn't be a surprise to you. And the majority of the time, depending on the size of the contracts that we're working on, most of the time you're talking to your underwriter. You get a bond line every quarter, you're talking to them. If you are actually over $500,000 per job, you're right at the point, and you're doing $1 million in aggregate, you're right at the point that the surety company wants you to start bidding on $1 million or more. And now you're going to have audited financials. I hope that answered your question for you. And we're going to have another opportunity here. It's a 1:44. We have till 2:30. The don'ts are not as long as the do. So Sean, let's go ahead and take one more question until we feel go forward.
Sure. Last question into our next stop. It's from Boston Metro Painting Services. In my company, one of the partners has 51% ownership and the other has 49% ownership. They are both married, so they all would have their credit score checked, correct?
Yes. Straight answer, yes. Does not matter if you own 20% or more in any company. In some cases, if there are 5 owners that are 20%, and all of you are married, all of you are having you and your spouse's credit report run. Yes. Again, it goes back to what happens if something happens to you. And as we go through, we are going to have other workshops, and we're going to get into details. An hour and a half is very limited on this particular program and what we're going to do, but we're going to break down and have other workshops for you that we specifically will talk to you about that. So yeah, but that is correct. Sometimes it just depends on how many owners there are and what the split is, but the rule of thumb is usually 20%. I see that the topics have been sent out for the polls. We're going to share these results with you down the road, but we would really appreciate it that if all of you that are on here, I see 61 people, respond to this poll. It would really benefit us and the MBTA and our business partners to make sure that we have responses from you of what you want to know and what you want to learn. All right, Sean, let's go forward unless how many more questions you have on this side?
I have one more. Should be pretty quick question if you want to answer it.
Okay.
Does the industry for bonds matter?
Okay. When you say the industry for bonds, again, the majority of requirements for surety come from the owner. In this particular case, if you're bidding at the MBTA, and the MBTA is requiring, based on state Commonwealth laws, of that job to be bonded. So the majority of the time when you had, not the majority, all of the time, it's the owner of the project that requires the bonding. It's the level they want the job to be bonded. It's the level they break it down for subcontract to be bonded. And most of the time you're going to find that the state or the Commonwealths go by what the regulations are, the requirements in that state. So those requirements, again, the Miller Act was to make sure that we as taxpayers that are paying taxes to build a school, to build a state building, to build a county building, that our tax dollars are protected so that that job gets finished on time and hopefully under budget. So the requirements really come if it's a city, municipality, state, federal contract. The majority of the time, the buyer is deeming if that job is being bonded and at what levels the job is going to be bonded. Hope that answered your question for you.
Awesome. We got one more question. We'll wait until the next pause. If you want to go ahead and start with the don'ts.
Yes, please do. Let's go to the next slide. Here we go. How much bonding can I get? A multiplier between 10 and 20 times is applied to your working capital to arrive at the aggregate bonding capacity. Net, I have $10,000 worth of working capital. I can get up to 100,000, in some cases 200,000 of a per job line. Everybody understand that? If you don't, please put in the chat if you want me to go into more detail. But your working capital, a multiplier between 10 and 20 times is applied to that to arrive at the aggregate of your bonding capacity. Those of you that want to do multiple jobs, you should really look at that based on how come you are able to get an aggregate limit. And then if you're doing it and you have the experience of doing $300,000 jobs, but you have $100,000 sitting in the bank as working capital, you really could increase your what? Your total aggregate of jobs you're doing. And that's kind of how the construction industry works. But again, it goes back to you and your credit score, your spouse's credit score, and then a lot of the details come into your previous history and things that we've already discussed in the previous slides. Next slide, please. The top 10 don'ts is the most important one, number one. Don't lie. You will get caught. Don't fudge numbers. Don't say anything that is not the truth. For those of you that are getting general liability insurance right now, for those of you that are on Facebook, for those of you who are on LinkedIn, and you're a business owner, please don't put anything in writing that is not true. Don't say your company does all of this. It's not happening. Because the surety underwriter, and we have just discovered this through a major client of ours for 13 years, posting something online about 18-year-olds going to their bar in Las Vegas. Every underwriter ran because they posted it on their own website that that's what they allow, and they've had a couple of parts. Well, we only did it once. Sorry, you're done. That's it. They're not going to write your insurance. And this was a new company that we brought in to realistically try to get them better pricing. Do not post anything anywhere or say anything that is not true about your company, or embellish things about your company so that you can look better. Number two, don't rush into partnerships or joint ventures. Know who you're getting in bed with. Understand what your partner is looking for. Due diligence is key. Make sure that you do full checks on anyone. The prime, people go to prime. Why the prime? Well, you need to check on the prime to make sure that the prime has paid all their subs in a timely manner in previous jobs they've done. What is the background on that prime that you're going to be bidding with? Requirements in your contract with that prime. Pay when paid clauses. Make sure you are aware of what you're signing, but more importantly, who you're working with. Many sureties will only provide bonding support if they bond both partners. So you bought insurance from Joe Blow and you get insurance from Kathy Sue, the two separate companies. But yet now you're going to National Insurance Consultants to get your bonding. Guess what? We're checking with both of them to make sure you have the right coverages in effect that fit what? The requirements in that contract. You only got $500,000. The requirement says you need $1 million, $2 million. Did you budget that? Did you put that in to make sure that when you bid on that job? That's why I go back to bidding. Bidding and estimating, it is the most important. And again, another 80-20 rule comes into play. You might want to write this down if you're in this industry. The underwriters use an 80-20 rule for almost everything, including your bidding. Have you had a history of staying within 80% of what you bid as your net? Can you state that every time you have bid, you have stayed within net profit of 80%? They look at those things over a period of time to make sure that you're going to what? Be on time, under budget, and net profit. Does anyone here know what net means in the construction industry? I'm gonna tell you now, it's gonna come up on a slide, but net means after taxes. Net means after you've been paid. Net is the bottom line when it comes to this industry. What is your net profit? Net. After everybody's been paid, after your taxes have been paid, and after you've actually reviewed at the end of the year, your fiscal year, your financials. Number 3, please don't use your company as a bank. Owner receivables are not considered valued assets. It may be in other industries, but it's definitely not in this. Prepare a cash budget and stay informed of your cash position. If you have a banking relationship, you should probably get more than one. If you have a surety relationship, you're tied to that surety. I had a client, hey, in Chicago Transit Authority, hey, we want to, bid on our bond. There's no such thing. You cannot go to other bonding companies to try to get a lower bond line until you're completely done with all your jobs. Then you're done with that surety company. You can choose to go elsewhere after that. But while you're working, if you have a bond that is open until it is closed, net, you're stuck with that surety line, that surety carrier. Make sure you're aware of that. Next slide, please. Don't overreach. Know your limits. One of the main things that we have discovered, we had a client in Denver, Derek and I were like, what in the world? And why is she trying to do and bid on a $20 million job when her bond line was $2 million? Well, I'm going to go to a different surety company. Not till you finish this job, you're not. So understanding the process as the business owner, as the entrepreneur in the construction industry is more valuable than anything. And by the way, at the end of the day, you as the business owner need to know about surety more importantly than anybody else, because that's how you're going to grow your firm. We have so many small business owners that started out at 100,000 because the state required you to have a job, or the contractor or the county or the city required that would be how they broke the contracts down. We want a big performance and payment job all the way down to 100,000. Why? Helps the community. You leave a footprint in that community when you break those contracts down. How and why? Because now they show a history of bidding and performing those jobs at that $100,000 level, the surety agent and the surety company's big responsibility is to increase your capacity to 200, 250 per job. If you've only been doing one job, we want to get you to the point that you're doing multiple jobs. And it's not out of the goodness of our heart. It's because it's business. It's business for you. It's business for the MBTA. It's business for the community. And at the end of the day, everyone wins, including the fact that you now pay taxes by hiring people in that community. And that's what we mean by leaving a footprint in the community. Some of the people don't really understand what surety does. Surety grows firms. Surety gives you the capability of hiring people. And when you hire people, what do you have? They pay taxes just like you do. Number 5, please don't manage around your tax returns. We want to minimize taxes, but retain earnings. When I say retain earnings, you want to bonus somebody out, you bonus them out after it's net net. You bonus them out. If you want to take a portion, that's fine. But we're hoping, as the underwriter and your surety agent has explained and worked with you, that you retain the earnings net net. And that way, what you do is now leave that in there to be able to bid bigger jobs, larger jobs. Number 6, don't use one job cost to cover another job cost. Please watch job balls. Number 7, don't market yourself to the surety as you would the federal, state, or local government. 2 different approaches. Know what the surety wants and stay within the boundaries. We'll make this very clear to everyone on this call. The surety doesn't care if you're a small business enterprise, woman business enterprise, disadvantaged business enterprise. They don't care what the E is on the end. You're a business owner in the construction industry. They don't care what color you are or anything else. Their job, my job, our team's job is to get you a bond line, grow your firm. What does that do? Again, it leaves a footprint in the community because we all win. Number 8, don't completely rely on your agent for bonding expertise. Please get familiar with the process. We've had people that we've grown them and they went somewhere else. Why did they go somewhere else? They went somewhere else specifically because we couldn't meet their needs. They grew out. They wanted to go to other states. They did other things. But historically, you will find that your surety company and your surety agent, you stay with them. You grow with them and they grow with you. Number 9, please don't let a no stop. Our team has worked with people that they told them no. And what do? We designed how to get to the yes. That's what our lending team does, and that's what our surety team does. We specifically work with you, and again, we will come to you and through our assessment, and we'll tell you point blank, okay, you're bond worthy right now. Let's get in the marketplace and get you, we need this completed. Let's get you a bond. Then we'll categorize you. Okay, it's going to take us 3 to 6 months. Oh, by the way, first category is we can get you bonded right now. Second category is we can get you bonded tomorrow. Then we move on to the 3-month, maybe 6-month, 9-month, or 12-month. So we're going to do an assessment, if you allow us to do an assessment of your business practices, your business firm. We're going to be able to come back to you and advise you relative to how long it's going to take, how short it's going to take to be able to get you a line, a surety line, as well as a lending. And our team will work with you to do those things. Can we go to the next slide, please? It looks like we're going to have some time left for quite a few questions. So the underwriter, I'm speaking as an underwriter, former underwriter for Hartford AIG, what we look for, what we must have, the strength of the balance sheet, your financial statement presentation. Well, why is that? Depending on the size of your firm, we work with you to help you develop that. We being the broker as well as a surety underwriter. Your equity that you kept in the company, history of successful projects. And one big thing, of course, everybody knows we don't want to have debt. Experience and type of project. Please stay in your lane. Please, you do steel erection. Let's not go try to do flat work. You do flat work. We're not trying to do any plumbing. Consistent profitability. How do you do that? By retaining earnings, net. Use of CPA or bookkeeper or accountant. I use a CPA because our goal is to get you to the point that you need to have a CPA. That's really what we're looking to do. At some point in time, we're hoping that we grow your firm to the fact that you started at 100,000 per job. Now you're doing $1 million per job with a $5 million aggregate. Have we done that? Yes. I want to emphasize with all of the infrastructure money that's still out there, it's our time as small business enterprises, as business owners, it's our time to get a piece of this pie. One of the other things on our top list is your expertise, your reputation of company, and your management team. Please surround yourself with people that are as good as you or better. When you do that, you provide that. And oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, a lot of underwriters will send you referrals of not just people, jobs that they would like you to bid on. So when you get a surety line, you not only get the ability to bid on jobs at that line, but you get an agent and an underwriter that's what? Looking out for you to get more jobs, to grow your firm. Not out of the goodness of their hearts or our hearts, but we want you to be successful, which makes us successful. Number 10, continuity succession plan. You could bid $100,000 job and not have a continuity succession plan. You could bid a $250,000. But you start getting over that, there's going to be continuity and a succession plan in place for your firm, especially since you have a job that you're working on right now. If something happens to you, there needs to be a succession plan in place to complete that job, period. That is a must for surety companies, especially if you get to a $500,000 per job with $2 million aggregate. What does that mean? You can bid up to a $500,000 per job and you can have 4 jobs at one time going on for a total of $2 million. Next slide, please. All right. I saw a very important question come up. Sean, you have a list of questions. We still have some time here, like 20 some odd minutes.
All right, yes. All right, so this was from the previous session from Adam Parker. He wants to know, how does bonding work in private sector jobs, or are other methods used?
It's a great question. Historically, you will find that private sector jobs require bonding only if the owner is requiring it. It is not necessarily required by the county, the city, the federal government. If it's a private contract, they're the ones that make the requirements of if they want to have a performance bond that may include bid bonds or payment bonds, but that's where that comes in on the private side, specifically relative to the owner of that project. Sean, next question, please.
Okay. Next question. This is for Dale. Dale, the recording the presentation is recorded, but he wants to know, may I know the requirements to have a bond?
Ooh, yeah, there are a lot. You'll see in this presentation because this will be and can be sent out to everyone, I believe. There are a lot of different things that we've gone through here on the requirements. The main and probably the most important thing is going to be your credit score. And if you're married, your spouse's credit score. And if you have partners, your credit score. So there are a lot of things that go into relative to bonding, including your previous history of being able to do work on time, under budget, and retaining earnings. Those would be the most important things, I think. Your credit score, uh, the 5 C's, your capabilities, your capacity, the continuity plan, the contract. One of the most important, if not the most important to me, as a former underwriter at carriers, is the review of that contract. Please don't sign the contract without having someone review it, an attorney, preferably. But historically, we will find, and don't get me wrong, there are lifestyle entrepreneurs, there are growth entrepreneurs. You make the choice of which one you want to be. I only want to do work under 200,000. I'm not trying to grow my firm. That net I get every year makes me go get a new BMW, blah, blah, blah. But realistically, what are you doing? You're doing all the work too. You haven't hired labor. You pay for your insurance, but you really haven't hired labor because now you're going out to do the work on this job site itself. So you're a sole proprietor doing the work. If you are owning a construction firm and you get bonded, the surety company wants you to grow so that you do what? Operate the company, hire workers to do the work that have experience in that. Plumbing firms, framing firms that are required for MBTA contracts. Building the bus shelters, building the rail, building things like that. Those are what we're discussing when it comes to the MBTA. So we talk about staying in your lane and making sure that you get a bond. The requirements are really going to depend on who wrote it and the requirements of that authority. But more importantly for you is, have you done and learned the 5 C's, and can you listen really, not to Herman Ross, but to Zurich? Because we're going to take your information, we're going to put that information in an underwriting form, we're going to submit it to who we feel is going to get you a yes. Historically, if someone says no, an underwriter tell us no, they tell us why. And then we come back to you, and after we've done our assessment, this is why. Oh, by the way, that credit score is 610, we needed a 660. And he'll or she will give you the bond line. We start working with you. Oh, you don't have enough capital. Well, we have a team of people on this call right now with us that we're going to have you talk to about how we can increase your capital. Because one without the other doesn't work. Having capacity includes having the capital to fulfill the obligations of that contract. And I just gave you 3 of the C's right there. And you will see, if you get this full presentation, what we're talking about with regards to requirements. But we're also going to do other workshops for the MBTA, which will effectively, if you're part of that, we will help you with your question and answer. Any other one, Sean?
Adam Parker wants to know, how do brokers get paid? Upfront fees for assessments or commission on a deal?
Okay, we get paid by commission. I'm going to break down for you historically the total of a contract. So you're bidding on a $300,000 job, total cost of construction. You bid and that bond is 300,000. Your bond could be as high as 3% of the total construction cost, not a lot of money, and as low when you're doing million above as a 0.5%. The broker can get anywhere from 25 to 30% of that commission per job. So yeah, we like doing surety because the difference between a broker is that one-time fee on your automobile coverage is 15%. The one-time fee on your general liability or bonding is 15%. That's how a surety agent gets compensated, through the surety company. You pay nothing up front. So you would pay that 3%, you pay that bond, we get paid from Zurich, we get paid from CNA, we get paid from Capital Indemnity, not anything from you as a business owner. Hope that answered your question.
Awesome. And the next question is from Beth of Ion Electrical. She's just asking if the recording will be emailed to the participants. And yes, it will be emailed to you guys. Okay. And
We have any more?
I got one more question from Stefano with Gene Computer Tech. It's a two-part question. One, what if you're married and not in good term with your partner? You still require the spouse credit score?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Whoever asked the question. Yeah, if you're legally married, yes. Why? Because you're legally married.
Okay, that's all the questions. Okay, and
just-
two for Stefano. How do we contact a broker? Actually, you have the emails right here in front of you. Any three of those emails at the bottom would be best.
Yeah, I'm going to go into the next steps. So
Yeah.
that'll take care of that. First of all, don't give up. Have patience. Remember, it's important to establish a bonding relationship well before any bonding deadlines. This is very important for all of you. The MBTA has sponsored your business to have an assessment done of your company's capacity needs. If you are interested in bonding or lending, please contact a member of the NICI team and you'll see our email addresses. If you send it to the bottom one, that's Sean, okay? Sean will make sure. I would suggest you send it to all three of us. Just copy all three on the email. But we're going to be reaching out through ARG to do assessments for your firms if you choose to have an assessment done. And they'll be reaching out to you, I'm quite sure, through emails and go forward with this. This will be sent to you as well. If I'm not mistaken, this full PowerPoint will be sent to you, and you can ask us any questions at any time. You can always just email us if relative to anything that we've done on this presentation, and one of us will answer your questions relative to today as well as going forward. We have any other slides, Sean?
I think Chris is up next.
Yes. Chris?
Yes, I am. Hello, thank you, Herman, for that wonderful, just beginning overview of the wonderful opportunities that are out there for SBEs and MBEs and WBEs and everybody who is trying to, oh, there my camera works, to really make it out there. And we welcome everyone to please return, keep ears to the ground. So I wanted to also let you know about other upcoming MBTA outreach events. Procurement and CPSI are hosting an in-person supplier diversity event on September 29th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at 10 Park Plaza. So it will be in person. The event will feature supplier diversity, small business updates from procurement and CPSI, networking, facts and questions with the director of procurement and sourcing executives, breakout sessions with operational service division and supplier diversity office. We hope to see you there. I highly encourage anyone that is interested with working with the T or learning more to please do stop by this event. And that is September 29th from 9 a.m. to noon at 10 Park Plaza. Next slide. And so in following up with Herman and more information that he'll be able to provide you with training, workshops, learning more about this, our next bonding training workshop will be on November 9th. So coming up here in a couple of months, we will have more information to follow. And as we develop that information as a, virtual, time, in person, etc., we will make sure that we reach out to everybody that is on this, that has attended today, and continue to reach out to the rest of the community. So please write this down and make sure you keep an eye out that we will be start sending out information regarding this next opportunity. And we also have more contracting opportunities that on the next slide we'll be able to take a look at for you, just so you know of some other upcoming contract opportunities that we have. So we have the system-wide transit restroom accessibility improvements contract, the Cabot remediation building and operator restrooms, and the downtown crossing Park Street contracts. We are looking at plumbing, electrical, HVAC, industrial finishes on the gamut of these contracts here, with additional different opportunities that will be available at the time, but those are really the scopes that we're taking a look at this moment. Again, that's HVAC, plumbing, electrical, industrial finishes, and so please do keep an eye out. Always look at mbta.com. Go to the section that says doing business with the MBTA, and you can always see the contracts that are upcoming, and keep your eye out and see what other opportunities we may have for you in the future. Next slide. All right. One more thing before I let you all go. Thank you again for attending. We have one more request of you today. We want to continue to keep providing you and other SVEs wonderful opportunities to learn about bonding and any other issues that you may be confronting as a community. So the only way that we can do better and improve and provide the best that we can for you is by collecting data through surveys. So if you would please just take a moment to complete the survey, it allows our team to know what we've done good and how we can do better in the future, and what is helpful to you as well. So if you could please scan that code and take the survey, we would greatly appreciate that very much. Thank you so much for attending today.
You all take care. If you have any questions, please drop us an email. We really appreciate you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.